value of this is monumental, right? This is everything you need to know about Social Security. And if you're feeling like, gosh, I'm behind and there's a lot I need to know, we're going to cover so much in this next hour, and the speaker could not be more perfect for this event. So Lee is a 30-year veteran of the Social Security Administration, and gosh, she's kind of been through it all, you guys. She started as a claims clerk in Brownsville. She has worked through various levels of management. She was also a lead training instructor for 5 years, and what she did was she trained the newly trained employees across the entire country to make sure that they were on par. She currently serves as a regional public affairs specialist over a 5-state area. And in terms of her education and really training to speak to us about this and for her career, she has a bachelor's of science in computer science, a master's degree in business administration, and a doctorate of management in organizational leadership. In addition to just, playing with computers, she also enjoys working with youth and has been a board member and trainer for TEDx Youth in Fort Worth for the past 5 years. So we're talking about somebody who serves as a community servant with a servant's heart, but also somebody who knows her stuff when it comes to Social Security. So we're talking about really an overview of all these programs: retirement, disability, survivors, Medicare, eligibility, benefits, alternate filing methods, online services, the whole bit. So if any of those you have a hole in terms of your information, Lee is the go-to person. And before we get any further, let's bring her on because she has put together a remarkable presentation for us. Welcome, Lee. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. Yes, well, Jenny, you just blew me out of the water. Now I have to show up. Now I have to produce. No, it is my pleasure to be here with you. I have been with Social Security for 30 years, so I know some of you may say, well, I don't know, should I ask a question? It is a lot of information. I always recommend to organizations that they should have a presentation once a quarter, twice a year at least, because every time you hear it, you'll learn something new. It's just so much information. And if you are planning to retire, I recommend you do your homework way ahead of time. 5 years in advance, at least 1 year. You want to know what to expect before the actual day arrives. So please, it is my pleasure. And if you'd like to have me again, just drop me a line. Raul has my email, and I'm not opening the chat on purpose. He should be able to type that in there and I'll address them at the end, but don't be embarrassed. For those of you who are embarrassed to ask a question on this platform, I understand. Send me an email and I will respond to you after this event. Now, Social Security, if we go to the next slide, Social Security has been here for quite a while, since 1935, just for a little bit. Now, we are going to cover today what is Social Security, how to get to know what you are going to get out of Social Security. What many people don't know is when Social Security was created, it wasn't meant to be your end all and be all. Like, you're going to work, then you're going to get Social Security, and that's it. Your life is set. That's not how it was intended. We support the three-legged stool, which you should have your pensions, your retirement, and Social Security, some savings, right? Retirement, pension, Social Security, and savings. Now, how do you know what you're going to get from Social Security? I'll let you know that if you get everything that you're going to get from Social Security, it only replaces 40% of your current earnings. Only 40%. So my job today is to let you know how you can get that whole 40%. So we're going to go over how you can create a My Social Security account, get to know what's on your record, how to play with some of our calculators so that you can see, what if I retire today? What if it's in next year, in 6 months? You can play different scenarios on there. You can look at all of those features online to apply for either retirement, disability, Medicare. All of those are on our public website, which is ssa.gov, or Social Security Administration, ssa.gov. Now, if you remember, for years and years, 3 months before your birthday, you get this envelope with green ink and you're like, oh, there it is, Social Security. We knew what it was. Well, we don't do that anymore. We're actually saving about 10 million of your tax dollars by not sending them through Postal Service. You can create a My Social Security account Open your record, look at your earnings, print them 20 times a day if you'd like. It's your paper, your ink, but that information is for you to review and play with as you please. It's important to know what you have coming to you. We go to our next slide. Now, this will tell you we serve just a few, 61.7 million beneficiaries every month through direct deposit. So we have the majority are on Social Security. That's your OASDI taxes, right? Your FICA taxes. And then about 8 million are that SSI, what's in that aqua teal. That's our needs-based program. That's paid out of general revenue. But the vast majority is our Social Security beneficiaries. Our next slide. All right, let's get right into retirement with our next slide. And I know, just to let you know, we do have like 200 slides, but I'll try and get to them in 30 minutes. Just kidding. Not 200, maybe 40, but not 200. All right. And we've discussed the different investment options for Social Security. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right. So when I tell you that you can get 40% of your current earnings, as long as you've worked and paid into Social Security 10 years, bottom line, at minimum, just 10 years, you are going to get something from Social Security. And that's what we're going to discuss today. What is that something? And there are people that work, 95% of the population does work and pay into Social Security benefits, right? Your FICA taxes. There are some that pay into a different system, teachers' retirement, police and fire department. Those are different. So they're going to get a different pension. But if they're like, well, I've worked for Social Security, I only have 9 years, or I only have 38 credits. What can I do to get, at least finish and get my full 40 credits? Well, this is the information in 2021. If you work, report, and pay taxes on $1,470, you earn that one credit. If you're missing just one, $1,470 in report it to IRS and you'll get that one credit. If you need the full year, all anyone can get is 4 credits per year. If you need the full year, that's $5,880. So if you do self-employment, or you're babysitting those grandchildren, start charging those kids and go ahead and report self-employment. For $5,880, you'll get all your 4 credits for this year. If we go to the next slide. Now, while it's true you need at least 10 years, Social Security looks at 35 of your highest earning years. So we look at 35, you need to have at least 10. What does that mean? Some people may work 40 or 50 years. Well, that's okay. We line up all of your earnings. When you go into your My Social Security account, or if you have one of those statements, look at all of your earnings. We add inflation. We add taxes. What are those dollars worth today? We line them up and we pull out the top 35 years. Take them out, put them in a bucket, divide by 35, and there's one number. Now, that's not the benefit amount you're going to receive. If you go to the next slide, there are some people who have not worked 35 years. Say you work for an organization and after 25 years, you're fully vested. You retire, you travel, you do other things. Well, if you have less than 35 years of recorded Social Security earnings, those are what we call 0 years. It will bring your amount down. So I do want you to know of a couple of exceptions that'll mean we can exclude some of those 0 years or non-earning years. If, male or female, you stayed home to take care of your babies before they went into school, we can erase up to 5 of those 0 years. We know I stayed home when I had my little ones and then I went to work. That's okay. If I have less than 35, we can erase up to 5 zeros. Now, what if there was a period of time that I didn't work because I had a disability? God forbid, I had a heart attack, I had cancer, something that kept me from working. Well, that's what we call a disability freeze. We can erase 5 more zeros. So if those exceptions apply, instead of getting your earnings and dividing by 35, we can divide by 30 or by 25, therefore making your benefit amount bigger, right? Because we can forgive some of those years that you were unable to work, no fault of your own. There are planners or calculators on our public website, and you'll see that link right on the bottom of that slide there, so that you can sign up to your Social Security. Now, these questions, if you do happen to file an application online, I'm just pointing these out so that you don't run right by them on the application path. It'll say, are these your earnings? Were any of these zeros child care years or child rearing years? Those are the 5 years we can erase. And then, of course, if you were unable to work because of a disability. Let's go to the next slide. Now, how many of you remember when 65 was the magic number? I can't wait till I'm 65. I'm going to retire and I'm set, just 65, 65. Well, that hasn't been the same since 1980, right? In the 80s, under Ronald Reagan and Greenspan, they said, wait, there's something going on with Social Security. We're going to have to redo the math and do something else. So since the year 2000, that 65 has moved over. Right now it's at 66. Those of us born 1960 and later, our full retirement age is 67. So that number moved over. And what does that mean? If I can still, early retirement is at 62. But if I want to get the maximum of my benefit, I want to wait until my full retirement age. If I come in early, there is a reduction to those benefits depending on how early it is that I choose to retire. If we go to the next slide, there are many things we have to consider, right, when we're ready to retire. The decision to retire is not the same for me as my neighbor or my sister. We all have bills. We all have different things going on in our life. So we have to take into consideration, what is my family history, our medical history? Do I have other savings? Do I have different work? These are things we have to take into consideration when you decide when the right day is for you. If we go to the next slide, Social Security, when you come in and you're going to say, Lee, you're going to send me an email, Lee, what if I retire tomorrow? Tell me, when should I retire? And I'm going to say, I can't make that decision for you. It is absolutely a personal decision. Jenny's going to say, no, Lee, look, you told me to retire yesterday and look what happened. I can't sleep with, having that on my conscience. That's just not going to work. Social Security will say, Lee, what if I retire tomorrow? There is your information. What if I retire next year? There is your information. That my job is just to give you what you ask for, but then you have to look at the numbers. Now, if you look at this chart, this is my favorite because it gives you a better visual as to what to expect. What if my full retirement age was 66? Well, if you look up on that graph, if I wait until my full retirement age, I get 100% of what I am due from Social Security. What if I come in at 65? I'm going to receive 93.3% of what I'm due. What if it's at 64, 86.6? So you see how it gets a little smaller the earlier you come in? If you file at 62, you would receive 75% of what you are due from Social Security. Now, on the other hand, if you decide to work and wait a little longer to retire, that's fine. People are working much older. My father-in-law retired 2 years ago and he's 80. So, people are just working much, much longer. If he waited, or if my full retirement age is 66 and I wait 1 year, it goes up by 8%. That's 108%. If I wait 2 years, 116%. If I wait up to the age of 70, I can receive 132% of what is due to me from my Social Security benefits. Now, it does not grow after the age of 70. But you can see how if I file now, tomorrow, that's what the calculators do. They give you a better picture of how this would work for you. Now, some people say, well, why would I wait? Why would I want a deduction? Or should I wait? And I always share, and I was telling Raul and Jenny earlier, I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. I'm a Valley girl. Now, things are different down here. My aunt, for example, she worked in the field. She didn't have mutual funds. She didn't have savings. She had 12 kids at home that she had to feed. So she was working and, spending her money. When she was 62, she had to decide either retire and have some money or not file and have no money. So her decision, because she was sick, was to file early. Unfortunately, she passed away at 64. So what if she had waited? She never would have gotten any benefits. Right? So I understand for everyone, it's just you have to consider what your situation is if you want to file now or later. If we go to the next slide, though, the decision of when you file doesn't just affect you, the number holder, it also affects on our next slide, are your spouse and your minor babies. If you file for Social Security benefits, and that'll give you the reductions and fractions right there. But you see that last column? When you file for benefits, if you are married, your spouse is eligible for 50% of what you are drawing. So if I wait until 66, I get $1,000. My spouse, if they are of age and eligible at their full retirement age, they can get 500 or half of mine. But what if I file early and then they file? Those numbers, those are the percentages that are going to affect, and it can be a little confusing. So let's just, and we only have 30 minutes. So let's just go to the next slide. And I want to show you, if you're married, like I said, your spouse can get 50%, but that's at their full retirement age. If they come in at 62, it's not that full 50%, it's 75 of that 50%. You see how those fractions still come in again? So you've reduced yours, and then theirs is just possible. Now, if I'm married, my spouse can only file under my benefits if I have already filed. If I want to wait until I'm 70, that's fine for me, but my husband can't file under my number. He can file under his own, but not under mine until I'm ready to file. But what if I want to file under my ex-husband? I'm legally unattached, because this is for spouses. For divorced spouses, they can also file under your record just as you can for theirs. If I am legally married, I want to give you examples, but I don't want to give you so many that are going to get you confused. So let's say I'm divorced and I've been married 4 times, because that's how good I am, and I've been married 10 years to each. I want to file under theirs, and I believe it's the next slide. Well, Social Security will calculate the benefits under each record and will pay me under the one record that's going to pay me the highest. So let's say it's Bob number 3. I can get under Bob number 3 because I'm legally unattached. I was married 10 years, and I can file under those benefits. By the same token, they can file under my Social Security number, and it will not affect. Whether one husband or 3 husbands receive benefits under my Social Security number, my benefits are still mine. Mine are not affected, as long as they are legally unattached to anyone else. Now, let's say I go play bingo and I just go do the social life, and I meet Bob number 5, Mr. Wonderful, and I say, this is it, I get married. That's fine, but the benefits for the others go away, and it would only be for Bob number 5. Okay, because now I'm legally attached to him. Everything else goes away, and that would be the only one. So I know that when Social Security was created in 1935, it was like you get married, and it's like everybody was married forever for the rest of their life, as it is written. But society doesn't reflect that, so I like to give examples that are still modern that may apply to you. And if you have questions on these scenarios, please just send me an email. But if we go to the next slide, not only you, your spouse, your ex-spouses, if while you are living, your spouse is eligible for 50% out of your benefits, right? 50%. Once you pass away, your spouse or ex-spouse is eligible now for 100% of your benefits. And they can even file earlier at the age of 60. So a widow or widower can file at 60, but because they've come in earlier, there is a bigger reduction. So they can file earlier, but they would only receive 71.5% of those benefits. So, okay, while you're living, 50%. Once they pass away, they are now eligible for 100% at an earlier date. Are we okay? I hope I'm not confusing you. It's a lot of information. Let's go to the next slide. Now, not only your spouse and your ex-spouse, but your minor babies. This is big. When you apply for Social Security, if you have minor babies, they're under the age of 18, or they're in an accredited high school, they can receive benefits while they're in school up to the age of 19 and 2 months. If they graduate early, it would only be until the age of 18. So it's 18 or until they're out of high school. There are babies that are born with a disability. If they have spina bifida, they're paraplegic, some scenario in which they have a disability before the age of 22. If you're receiving Social Security retirement or benefits from any one of our programs, your babies can receive benefits under your number indefinitely if they meet the criteria. And when I say your babies, our babies are going to be our babies regardless of the age. Let's say I filed for retirement at 66. My baby is 40. That's okay. If my 40-year-old baby had a disability and it was documented before the age of 22, they can file and receive benefits under my Social Security number. And for disabled children, this is because, it's difficult that they may be able to work and support themselves or provide for themselves under these benefits, which is why it's there. And I've mentioned the widows at 60, widow and widower. There's a stipulation for widow and widowers. If they have a disability, they can file as early as 50 to 59. There would be no deduction because disability pays 100% at any age. Next slide, please. All right. And as I said, for the babies, and I do stress babies, because if you, as a parent, if you're receiving retirement, or if a parent passes away, as long as you're paying into Social Security, please know your minor babies are eligible for benefits if you've been working and paid into Social Security. To remind you that please do look into that so they can receive benefits until they're out of high school. One thing to note is they must remain unmarried. If they become legally married, then the benefits would stop. So I have to point that out. On our next slide, this is one that we have a lot in North Texas. We have grandparents taking care of their grandbabies for whatever reason. Well, when you file for Social Security, let's say it's retirement benefits, if you, the grandparent, have been taking care of your grandchildren from birth, they can qualify as a dependent under your Social Security record. Or if they've been with you at least 1 year before you file and you're providing for them, you're supporting them, they can file under your Social Security number as a dependent. Now, if you're a grandparent and you're like, I didn't know that, I'm receiving benefits, can I add my grandbabies now? Unfortunately, no. If you're already in pay status, you'd have to legally adopt them. So we can pay benefits to your biological children, your stepchildren, adopted children. So your grandchildren, you would have to adopt them if you're already in pay status. But I do want to let you know, because there are so many grandparents, and I don't want you to miss out on any of these benefits or opportunities for you. Our next slide, please. All right, and here's the big question, because the funniest thing, well, funny to me because I'm not at that point, but I'd be at the front window and people would come in and they're like, they're already retired. They said, I was ready to retire, but Lee, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with my spouse in the house. Oh my God, can I go back to work? And I'm like, yes, you can. I understand. I'm telling you, my father-in-law didn't retire till he was 80 because my mother-in-law says, you retire, you're not staying in the house all day. You're going to be out there. So he waited. Families are funny thing. But what if you wanted to go back to work? That's okay. If you notice the last line, if you're at your full retirement age or later, say you've already 66, 67, and you want to go back to work, we're going to say that's okay, work all you want. It will not affect your Social Security benefits. So once you're at your full retirement age, go ahead. No effect to your benefits. If you're under your full retirement age, there are limits. There are limits to what you can earn without it affecting Social Security. And that's that first line. Say you file at 62, 63, you're getting benefits this year, and this number changes every year, goes up about $600, right, for next year on average. So in 2021, as long as you don't go over $18,960, you can work, be a consultant, part-time, self-employment, whatever, $18,960, get your Social Security, all is good. Nothing happens. If you go over that $18,960, we keep half of what you go over. So what if you earned $20,960? You went over by $2,000. We keep $1,000. Or really, we keep one check. We give you the other 11. And at the end of the year, when we look at your W-2, we adjust it and we give you the difference of what was due to you in that one check. If you see that middle line, it has a bigger amount, $50,520. The year in which you reach your full retirement age, things are a little different. We let you start a little early. I'm not sure if you know, but there's many that think they can come and apply for Social Security benefits on Friday, and they're going to get a check on Monday. No, We just don't work that fast. It's just a little longer. For Social Security, you have to be eligible one full calendar month before you can get a check the following month. So my birthday is January 15th. If my birthday gift to me is to apply for Social Security, January 15th, my first eligible month is February, I wouldn't get a check until March. So knowing that you're planning this ahead of time, that middle line says, if your birthday is later in the year, July or August, that's when you can actually come and apply early. Say your birthday is in August, or that's your month, at full retirement age. From January to July, as long as you don't go over that 50,520, you can go ahead and file in January or July. Come in early, start your Social Security. That way you know when it's going to come, if it's going to be the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month. You get it going. By the time August comes, you're set. You either retire and you know what you're getting, or you keep working and your check is uninterrupted. So the year in which you turn that your full retirement age, they give you a higher amount. If you go over that amount, we do keep 1/3 if you exceed the 50,520. That's for 2021. Like I said, these numbers do change every year. So this is true for this year. When we look at these numbers, if you go to the next slide, when we look at that 18,960 and that 50,520, we're only looking at things that are on your left, your W-2 or self-employment, your net earnings from self-employment. We're not considering your inheritance. If you have rental property and you're doing, no, that doesn't affect your Social Security, not in this, at this point. It's just your W-2 and your self-employment. Now, I've told you what will or will not affect your Social Security benefits. We go to the next slide. This is true in our case. However, there is someone who pays attention to what you're bringing into your household. That's the other federal agency. That's IRS. So when you're ready to retire and you're thinking, do I get my benefits? Do I continue working? There's something else. It's a family discussion. If I'm working or I decide to retire and I'm still doing a little bit of part-time, IRS says, as long as you're under $25,000, you do your thing, we leave your Social Security alone. If your earnings are between 25 and 34, up to half of your Social Security benefits may be taxed. If I earn over 34,000 and filing taxes individual, if I go over 34, up to 85% of my Social Security benefits will be taxed. If I'm married, what if you're like, Lee, but I didn't work. I remembered the numbers. I'm not working, but my spouse is still working and their earnings were between 32 and 44,000. Half of my benefits may be taxed. If it's over 44, then up to 85% of my Social Security benefits will be taxed. Now, I leave this slide in here because many times when you call Social Security and our representatives pick up the phone, they're only thinking Social Security. Does it affect Social Security? Nope, you're good to go. And then when they file their taxes on April 15th, it's a surprise to their system, right? But you said I did. So I put this because if you know you're going to be taxed or potentially taxed, you can actually fill out a W-4 and say, Social Security, I know I'm going to be taxed. Can you go ahead and withhold some of my benefits, send it to IRS so I can kind of break it down every month. So you download a W-4 and you can select between 7, 10, 12, or 22%. We can withhold the amount that you select from your Social Security benefits. We send it to IRS April 15th. It's not so much of a heart attack when you get there. So your options are again 7, 10, 12, or 22%. You mail it into your local Social Security office and we take care of that for you. Now we do have some other programs, though, the provisions that came into effect. Remember, I told you from 65, now it's 66 and 67. Two other provisions are coming up, which is the Windfall Elimination provision, which is the next slide. And I just want to go over this briefly because it may or may not affect some of you. Windfall elimination provision is when you, the worker, you paid your FICA taxes, old age survivors disability, right? You paid that and your Medicare taxes. But for a period of time, you worked somewhere else that didn't pay taxes, FICA taxes in this sense, like teacher's retirement, railroad, post office, some police department, right? Well, if you work for those entities that did not pay Social Security, you could be hit with a windfall elimination provision. If we go to the next slide, remember I told you with Social Security, you work and we look at your top 35, we look at your earnings, divide by 35, and this is a number. Well, we weren't done with the math yet. If you look at the left side of your screen, once we have that number, this bucket, we take $996 out. We get 90% of that. We put it aside. We take the next $6,002, multiply by 32%, put it aside. If there's anything left in the bucket, we multiply by 15%, add it up. That is your Social Security benefit. Now, the average Social Security benefit in retirement this year is $1,500. The most is about $3,200 in Social Security retirement, but the average is about $1,500. If you've worked 10 years or lower amount, well, then you might be closer to maybe $1,000. These benefits are based on how much you contributed and how long you worked paying Social Security taxes. So this is your computation right here. On the right, this is saying if you worked somewhere else other than Social Security that did not pay Social Security taxes, your computation is a little different, and that's all in that first line. You see 90% and 40%. It's only in that first step. But how do you know? Is it 40? It could be 50, 75. Let's go to the next slide. Depending on how many years you worked and paid Social Security, that's going to determine that first step. If, yes, you were a teacher for a little bit, but you still paid Social Security taxes for 30 years, you gave us hours, we're good. You're going to be just like everybody else. 90% on that first step, no problem. Average computation. If it's less than 30, that's where you see that number change to 85, 75. If it's 20 years or less working and paying for Social Security, that is going to be 40% in that first step. If we can go back one slide, the maximum that we would withhold, and this is a monthly withholding, would be $498 a month. So if you were due $1,500 in retirement benefits, we keep $498 and we give you the other $1,002. That's every month. However, this, when you're hit with WEP, it's not going to affect you until you're actually drawing that other pension. So if you were a teacher and you're still working as a teacher, you're past 66 and you file for early retirement and you're still doing that other thing, then you're not going to be hit with the windfall because you're not pulling that teacher's retirement pension yet, right? The day you do draw it, this is when it'll happen. The average reduction for windfall elimination is $280 a month. Some are only hit a little bit and some that full amount. So I wanted you to be aware of that. If we jump 2 slides over, the next provision is the government pension offset. This is if you didn't pay enough into Social Security and you want to file under a spouse. So windfall is you, the number holder, you worked and you did this. Government pension offset is when you want to file under someone else. My husband works for DISD. He pays into teachers' retirement, so he's going to want to file for benefits under my number, right? Because I worked my entire life for and paying into Social Security, and that's okay. Government pension offset is here for him. We go to the next slide. If he wants to retire, and I've already filed for benefits, so he's eligible to file under me, right? I'm living, so he's eligible for 50%, right, when they're still living. So let's say from teacher's retirement, he receives $1,200 a month. Well, with the government pension offset, there's no scale, 90%, 40%. This says we're going to look at 2/3 of what you bring in from that other pension, and we're going to subtract it from what you're potentially eligible for under Social Security. So let's say I'm getting $1,500 from Social Security. He's eligible for half, right? That's $750. That's that first number. He's getting $1,200 from teacher's retirement. We're only going to look at 2/3. That's $800. Well, while I'm living, that 2/3 is higher than what he's eligible for under my Social Security number. So while I'm living, he would not be eligible for benefits under my Social Security record. However, if you remember, once I pass away, all bets are off. He can receive 100% of my benefits. So this is the disconnect that happens many times, that people will only hear that first no. They'll say, well, no, you make too much, because many pensions pay way more than Social Security. That pension is too high. You're not eligible. They forget that situation, or maybe they're unaware. That's a better way of putting it. They're unaware that those benefits, those numbers are different when the number holder passes away. So my recommendation is, even if they tell you no, insist on filing anyway. When you insist on filing, and my husband says, well, okay, I'm not eligible, I want to file anyway, our records are tied, and if I should pass away before him, the system will automatically do the computations, and within 10 days, he gets his check or an increase in the mail. If he doesn't file, then during the worst moment in his life, when I pass away before him, he's going to have to remember to do all these things, file for Social Security, do the life insurance, do all these things. It's very traumatic. It's a very sensitive moment. So if your records are tied, he doesn't have to worry about Social Security because it'll automatically do itself. For widow and widowers, they are not hit with the government pension offset. So remember this provision that even if they tell you no right now, it could change in the future. The last one I want to touch really quickly on is Medicare. Medicare is the federal health insurance on our next slide. Federal health insurance that many of our beneficiaries, that's disability. Many people who file before they're even eligible for retirement, if you've worked and paid into Social Security, you must be currently eligible and currently insured. So if we go to the next one, I did not want to spend a lot of time on this because I want to leave time for your Q&A. These are things, if you're working and paid into Social Security and you become disabled and it becomes so severe, it keeps you from working for 12 months or longer, Social Security disability is here for you. It's just like your car insurance. You don't want to use it, but if the day comes, you want to make sure it's there. That's like Social Security disability. If by an unfortunate reason you are unable to work, then you can file for this. We go to the next slide. Social Security disability pays 100% at any age. Now for the younger folks, because remember you have to work at least 10 years to get something. Well, if you're under 31, it's not your fault. You're still a baby. It's not your fault that you haven't lived long enough to have worked those 10 years. So by the age of 24, you've worked at least a year and a half and paid Social Security taxes, you are considered fully and currently insured. Under 31, as long as it's 4 years, you are fully and currently insured. Our next slide. Not only do you get benefits, your spouse and minor babies can receive benefits as well. So we have payments for mothers caring for minor babies or fathers caring for their minor babies. So I did not want to miss these couple of slides. Our next one, please. Now we go with Medicare. Now, as you know, when you're paying your FICA taxes, you pay that 1.45 goes to Medicare. That means when it comes time, Part A is free because you've already paid your taxes. This is for your hospital visits only. It is for your skilled nurse health care as well, hospice, but that is strictly for that. Part B would be that doctor's visits, anything else outside of the hospital. If we go to the next slide, it is a national health insurance, and most people become eligible when they're 65. Even though retirement moved over to 66, Medicare is still at 65. Or those that file for disability after 2 years of being on disability, they're eligible for Medicare. Also, anyone with Lou Gehrig's disease or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, end-stage renal disease, and environmental health hazard exposure. Our next slide, please. So you have 3 different periods, whether when you turn 65, you can come in 3 months before, the month of, or 3 months later. That's your big window when you can come and apply for Medicare. That's when you want to do that. If you're working though and have group health insurance through your employer, then you don't have to sign up right away at 65. You can wait for that special enrollment period without any penalties. If you miss the first one and then you just forget to come in later, our general enrollment is every year from January 1st through March 31st, and it wouldn't start until July of that year, whatever year you file, and there is a 10% penalty for every year you let go by after the age of 65 that you could have had Medicare, but you chose not to have it, so there is a little bit of a premium upcharge. We go to the next slide, please. We do have a lot of people, and as you know, our Social Security offices, because of the pandemic, we're all working remotely. It's not as easy as let me just go drop the forms at Social Security. So if you're ready to file for Part B, there is, and it is on our public website, so you know, ssa.gov, right on the top it says coronavirus. press that and it'll give you this information. Although Raul can share this PowerPoint, so you can have it with you after the presentation, but there's a number where you can just fax all the information, that 833-914-2016. And all they do is take all the Part B applications and process them right away. There's also the form, the link where you can get the forms. There are 2 forms for Part B. One is where you're saying, I want Part B, and this is the month I choose. The other one is if we need to verify your employment to see if you had group health insurance, which would be the CMS L564. All right, the next slide. And I see the time clicking. I'm almost there. I promise. One more slide. The slide I do want you to select is mymedicare.gov. Should be the next slide. Oh, there's your premiums and deductibles for Medicare. Boom. Next slide. I want to give you time for that Q&A. One more. This one's not even a pretty discussion, but I'll touch on it if you ask. MyMedicare.gov, I want you to know that when you sign up for Medicare, there are a lot of preventative free health checks. So within the first 6 months, you get a free physical. Once or twice or every other year, you get a free chest x-ray. So they invest money in preventative health care, which is for free. It's much easier for you to catch an illness earlier to try and treat it. So do take advantage of those signups. So mymedicare.gov is a great place and source for you to find out what's free for you, as well as when you go to the doctor, it tells you the visits that you were there. And if some of the bills or the charges are not accurate, you report them, because, you know, we want to take care of all of our tax dollars. So our next slide is how the new Medicare looks now. Finally, our last slide that I'm going to stop with is Social Security. That's our face, that's our website. If you look on the bottom left, My Social Security, that's the account. That's where you want to press to create the account to see what is registered under your Social Security number. What years did you work? What are the earnings? If there are any years that are missing, you want to let us know early. You don't want to file and have to wait for us to fix all those records and all those years. You want to have everything in order. You want to have a good estimate of what that is. When you create the account, they are encrypted questions and it's tied to your credit report. So if you have your credit report on freeze or it's locked, you want to unlock that. Otherwise, it won't let you create an account. If it's there's any information that's incorrect, you're filing, you want status, you have a change of address, all of that can be taken care of through your My Social Security account. I'm going to stop right there so we can hit up some of your Q&As.
Lee, that was amazing. That was so excellent. I never thought that somebody could make Social Security so fun and so interesting. So let me know in the chat, you guys, did you enjoy that too? I just found this to be incredibly informative. I was kind of hanging on to every word here, and gosh, that's what I do for a profession is interview people. And I thought, okay, I've got this whole list of questions. Everybody else has this whole list of questions. So let's dive right in. And I will say some of these, I think you may have covered a little bit, but a couple of folks wanted some more details. So I'll put out the questions, because listen, if one person has it, there's probably 50 other people on the event who have it too. So don't be shy, you guys, to either send a direct message to Sarah National Events or to me to get those questions out there. So first one I want to hit you up with is, if you work while you're on Social Security, will you earn or add toward your Social Security benefit?
That's a great question, and it's yes. You know how we looked at 35 years? Well, as you keep on working, once we get your W-2, we automatically recalculate your benefits. We want to make sure if that's one of behind 35. So if Congress blesses you with a cost of living increase, you get a little jump in the beginning of the year. Then we get your W-2 in August, you get another like a $50 jump ahead because of the earnings that you worked the previous year.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was a great question too, because I think, everybody's kind of trying to jockey for their best position, right? Like nobody's trying to overwork here. We're trying to work the right amount. So another question that came in, and again, I think this is one that others might be thinking about as well. I'm on Social Security disability and have Medicare through that. I will turn 65 in October. So this coming October, do I need to make a change to my Medicare by my age instead of Social Security disability. Do you follow?
I do understand. And the absolutely best thing is that our system will convert it automatically. You don't have to do anything about it. It'll change it from disability to retirement. Nothing to do on your part. We're good. The reason that's good if you're already on it, it gives others who turn down Medicare at 55, it gives them another window to reapply for Medicare. That's why that little stipulation is there.
Okay, so there's another kind of similar question along those lines, and I just want to make sure that everybody's getting the clarification they need. Under Social Security disability, why move a person to retirement when they reach the age of retirement? For example, are they still considered receiving disability benefits, or are they considered retirement?
There's a couple of benefits. When you're on disability, remember you have to reach the level of severity, and then you look at your work capabilities. If you're working over a certain amount or earnings, your disability benefits could stop because of your work earnings or your work attempt. Whereas after retirement, you can work all you want and we don't care because it's a different criteria.
Okay, I've got another great question for you. So if I don't file for full retirement at full retirement age, does the money I make after full retirement age add to Social Security benefits? And then when do I file for full retirement with Social Security?
Right. So if you're 66 and you're like, no, let me just wait. Every year that you wait, it's 8% more. 8% more, and it just keeps growing until the age of 70. After that, there's no more interest increase, if you will, but that money, it is higher. What happens when someone files earlier and you're like 75%, that's okay. Well, that reduction stays with you for life. And you know, life expectancy right now, we're moving towards Generation X, 110. So that's 30 or 40 years with that same reduction on there. So that's something to think about. If you can wait a little longer, personal choice, then that's a higher check for a longer period of time.
Lee's planning to live to be 110. So
I don't want to see grandbabies, great grandbabies. No, it's on God's plan, right? But you know.
yes, yes. So here's another one, and I really liked this one. And to your point, times have changed since this, since Social Security was started. So it's good to see that things are evolving. And this question involves, can you file on more than one ex-spouse, or can you just file on one?
Wouldn't it be nice to just collect under all of them? But no. Social Security is going to pay you the one record that pays you the highest. So remember I said the four, you can apply under all of them, but it's only going to pay you one. The Bipartisan Budget Act changed quite a bit in November of 2015. It used to be that you, the applicant, could say, well, I want to file under my husband, then hold off under mine, and then switch them. The Bipartisan Budget Act says when you come in, you're going to give us all the information. We're going to choose the one record that pays you the highest, and that's what you're going to have moving forward.
And then say you're doing that, you're collecting on that one spouse that has the highest payout, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Then say you get remarried. Does that change anything or not at all?
Yes, if that spouse, that ex-spouse is still living, you get remarried, you lose benefits to that other spouse. You can only file under the new spouse, only under the new one. Now, the difference would be if someone is getting widow or widower. If someone is getting widow or widower and then they remarry, they do not lose benefits that they were receiving before. So it's going to depend on if your spouse is living or not. If they passed away, we leave you alone because it's a higher amount. It's disadvantageous. We protect our widows and widowers. But if everyone is living, you can only file under the spouse you're legally connected to.
Understood. Another great question coming in from the audience. Thank you all for sending these in. I think they're just also relevant. I am on disability at a young age. I'm 60 now. Oh, the chat just popped up. Let me get back up to get I want to get the exact question. So I'm on disability at a young age. I'm 60 now. If I was to work, how much can I make per month?
That's that 18,960 per year. That's that whole limit. We have something that's substantial gainful activity. So for our disabled, and I don't have it in front of me, there's a limit. We have different work incentive programs. So if you're on a trial work period, and if it's the first time you've done it, we let you work for 9 months. We don't even care how much you earn 5 million. We leave you alone for 9 months after you earn over $500 or $1,000. Then we pay you 2 more months and your benefits stop. But if you're earning a very minimal amount, then it is possible for you to earn more. So we have different work incentives. I hate to give you one black and white answer when there isn't such a thing. Send me an email. I can look at your record and put you in contact with some of our specialists.
Will you shout out that email one more time?
Yes, that's my full name, Rosalie.alviar@ssa.gov, or Alviar, right? Rosalie, Rosalie dot Alviar, ALV as in Victor, IAR @ssa.gov.
You're like me. It's like it's Enchando or Enchondo, depending on who you're
What's my audience? What's my audience?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for that. Okay, this is another great question. What if I was married, had a handicapped son, was not working but taking care of my child who had cerebral palsy, then divorced, but did not stay with my husband for 10 years? Can I still claim on his Social Security? The husband is remarried, so she's asking what to do there. No.
Unfortunately, you have to be married at least 10 years from the divorce, from the marriage license to the divorce decree. It doesn't mean you have to have been living together, but you do have to be married for those 10 full years. And that happens a lot. It happens. But the good thing is your child would be protected to still file under as a disabled child. There is also, I want to point out, an SSI program, our supplemental security income. This is for anyone, like for the children after they're 18, they're considered adults. Please have them apply. If they're under 18, we'd consider the parents' income to see if they're eligible. But SSI is another one of our disability programs. Just throwing it out there.
Okay, good to know for the child. That's great. Now, the Ticket to Work program, let's talk about that for disabled people. They say, are the rules the same on that? And can you still get your benefits?
Ticket to Work, we partner with a lot of agencies that they say, okay, they know what the limits are for every month, so you can stay under the radar and still continue to receive, or they match you up with some partners. There's a lot into that. It'll even let you keep Medicare 36 months after you stop receiving a check. For that, because of the amount of detail that's entitled, we don't even count all your wages. We deduct if you have expenses, like if it's your uniform or your driving or different things. So I would say we do have more information on our website, or send me an email because I want to know exactly where you fall in this. I have a great friend who's proficient in it, knows it like the back of her hand. I want you to have the right answer, not be misguided by what I'm saying today.
Oh, I so appreciate you being so real with everybody too, because so often, gosh, don't you get frustrated when somebody says, oh, just go to the website, and you're thinking, oh, but so thank you for being real with and authentic with these answers. So here's another one. If you're receiving Social Security disability, can you potentially get an increase or a decrease in benefits if you change to retirement benefits at age 62?
Disability pays 100% at any age, so it's even better than having filed at 62 or 63. You're already getting the max. So the only benefit would be is if you file under a spouse, and you could potentially get more under them. But disability is already paying you the most, regardless of when you turn 66 or 67. It's already paying you 100%.
Okay, got it. What about this one? If you file for Medicare after full retirement age, is there a penalty?
Yes, but that would be that special enrollment. So let's say I'm already 66 and I didn't sign up at 55 because I was working and I had group health insurance. That's fine. As long as I stopped working or that insurance stopped, I have that 8-month window. I fill out that 40B and that 564, what was on that Medicare screen. They'll start me up, no penalties whatsoever. It's either because I worked or maybe my spouse had me on their insurance, right? But what if at 66 or 67, I didn't take it because I just didn't feel like it? I didn't want to pay $148 a month. I understand. That's groceries right there. I didn't want to do it. Well, now because I chose not to, there is a 10% penalty for every year after 65 that you didn't take it. And there's that window that just closed, our general enrollment. It just closed January through March, and it wouldn't start till July. So it just depends.
Helpful. Now I'm already receiving Social Security at age 68, and now I have other income that taxes are being taken out for because of that other income. Does my Social Security get recalculated?
unless you're reporting that other income for self-employment and paying Social Security FICA taxes. If you claim it for self-employment, we could recalculate it, sure, and see if that's one of your high 35. And it potentially could be because it just wipes out your teen years, your early 20s when you were making minimum wage. So it could potentially pick that up, yes.
I love how you can take these rapid fire questions. This is a follow-up to the one we were talking about with regard to marriage. What if you weren't married for 10 years, but actually lived together for 10 years?
And that's going to depend. That can be done, but now you have to prove. This is when you want to make sure you had a really good relationship with your mother-in-law, because we're going to send it to them. Did they hold themselves out as husband and wife? And if they say no, or did you share bank accounts? Did you file your income tax reports together? Did you have children? So it'll just take a little bit of homework. It's possible, but remember, being good with those in-laws, because we're going to ask them.
I mean, I didn't expect to get the in-law advice today, but I am here for it. I'm thankful for it. Okay, I became a permanent resident 3 years ago and have worked since. What's going to happen regarding my Social Security options? And this is from somebody who's 63 years old.
Okay, so there are some residency requirements. First of all, you do have to be a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident of the U.S. You have to be a lawful permanent resident at least 5 years. So let's say you're already 65, we'd have to wait 2 more because you've only been here 3 years. Even for Medicare, they demand that it's for 5 years. Now that's under the Welfare Act. I think it's from 1996. That's when a whole bunch of the amnesty and all of that says. So the residency requirement is 5 years from the day that you got your 551. So make sure it's 5 years. And then we're still going to count all those earnings that you have, but it's the legal residency that would be in question.
So as we start to wrap up, is there we've gotten the website, which is fantastic. Is there, if somebody's like, oh my gosh, I've got a lot of different situations, or maybe some, like a unique situation they think needs to be investigated further, what's the best course of action? Are there like counselors or people that take people through this, or they reach out to you?
Everybody call me. No. Okay, we do have a 1-800. Now I'm going to say it used to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. With the pandemic, it's from 8 a.m. to 5:30. That's that 1-800-772-1213. And we have interpreters, so up to 15 languages. 1-800-772-1213 from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. You can also reach your local Social Security office. So if you go to ssa.gov, go way to the bottom of the page, says contact us, click there. Then the next page, go all the way to the bottom, contact us or your local office, and it'll give you the direct number to your local office, but they only answer between 9 and 4 weekdays. If you've been trying and you can't get through with your Social Security office, send me an email and we'll make sure that we get it taken care of.
You are a wealth of knowledge. Thank you for just not judging our questions and our confusion in some of these areas. Thank you, Lee, so much for everything. And I wanted to remind everybody, there is going to be a replay that's going to be up on Sarah's YouTube page. So I know this was a lot of information, and some of it you might be wanting to go back with those slides again. You'll also be able to access the presentation. So that's going to be up on the YouTube page. I can't thank you enough for all of this. And I also want to thank Rola Santa, Director of Network Relations, for Sarah Jobs for Progress, and just bring him back in to wrap things up. And I just think this was a wonderful session. And Raul, I'll welcome you back.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Lee. Awesome presentation, a lot of information. Thank you for that. We have a lot of comments, people thanking you for the information. Some folks said that they're going to reach out via email. But anyway, again, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Until then, have a blessed one, everyone. Bye now.